on your table now. Go ahead and grab a sticky note and throw down a couple bullets of what you already know about differentiation. Couple words. Just what words come to mind when you think differentiation? And another sticky note of anything you were hoping you'd get from me this morning. So 2 different sticky notes, and as soon as you have a couple words up there, feel free to throw them up there on that whiteboard. And literally, we'll get started in a minute. So, and just an anticipatory set, some words that occur to you that describe what you know about differentiation. What describes what you know and what you hope to come away with in the next hour?
And what you mean by differentiation is different levels of student learning, or?
Oh, yeah, and that's a good indicator of what you know. Is it just student levels? Is it, I'm gonna be quiet.
Yeah.
So, couple synthesized bullets and throw them up on that whiteboard.
I'm not gonna play.
You're not playing like.
Well, I'm not gonna play your game because I would be giving too much. So that's why I'm gonna let them. But the rest of your day is not gonna play.
When you're free, that can go around that way, and then the same thing. These go just one way.
Fabulous.
I don't know. I know that.
As you're doing that, there's 2 handouts floating around. One of them is the set of the PowerPoint slides, and the other is called Next Steps in Differentiation. So you should end up with two handouts. Edit that slide that's up there and just put in your email address.
Yeah, oops, yes, you can.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
And I told them this morning, I've got a document in the drive with everyone's contact information.
Oh, thank you.
So
Okay, I'm in there that way.
you're in there and
Okay.
Margaret's in there as well, so.
Excellent, great. You want me to come?
All the PowerPoints are not in our folder yet, right?
Not the ones from today, they're not in there yet. There should be a bunch of them. Is there something you're missing, Gerald?
I feel like I am. Can I?
I'll double check and make sure everything that we have is in there. Like, I think I got all of yesterday's in there. We just didn't have that many presentations yesterday.
I'm just thinking,
I know.
you know, either use bigger text.
Use bigger text or.
The only thing that may not be in there is the
Well,
course arc
they
one.
make that too.
The course arc one, because it was really just introducing what it is.
I only see one PowerPoint.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
I might be looking
Oh,
at-
well, they're Google Slides presentations. That's why. So that's all the other ones are Google Slides.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and jump in, and Amy just told me she put a directory up too with all the contact information for folks, but a couple people have already stopped me and asked me if it's possible to get an observation of their course or a teaching consultation, as I referenced on Monday. And of course, and as I said, it doesn't matter what your rank is. So Amy just went ahead and threw in my email on the cover slide too, but if you want to write it in, and as Kim said, I know the slides, your copy, the paper copy is small. You've got the electronic as well as at least a note taker here. So I am Donna.Sobel, S-O-B-E-L, and we're all info@ucdenver.edu. So I'm an email away, and so if you, at some point, or as I've heard Richard say a couple times, working with others in the department, as a professional development opportunity, should you want to encourage faculty to think about their own teaching, shoot me an email. And so with that, thank you so much for taking that time to scribe a couple notes. I'll get over in that corner and synthesize those for you, but it's a very, very simple anticipatory set. And so in terms of differentiation, my efforts here today are to, again, just hopefully give us all a little bit of a bigger viewfinder of how we reach all learners. So I hope you're thinking in really every session that you teach, where's your anticipatory set? And to remember that an anticipatory set is not just the opportunity to allow students to tap their background knowledge about today's topic, but the research tells us that it is that opportunity to tap background knowledge while simultaneously serving to hold their attention for what the session is all about. And so important for all learners. So you give them an opportunity to say what I already know about this stuff, and then hold their attention.
Just want to jump in. That's why we've been going around at the beginning of our session each day. That was the point of that.
It's an anticipatory set, and it is to build on what we did the day before, but what I want. So again, lots of different ways of doing that. So thanks for clarifying, Amy. And so with that one, Amy, if you could go ahead and drive me over, that would be great. Again, looking at holding students' attention to this topic. So when you stand up and kind of cluster to the center in just a moment, you'll see that I posted 4 different little color, some people call it 4 corners of the room. Lots of different ways of referring to this activity. I'm sure you've engaged in similar ones before. My little posters over here, the green one is you agree. This one is the gold color here, I strongly agree. I'm sitting on the fence, I neither quite agree or disagree, versus I disagree. Change those up, have more than 4. Amy said she does this activity and she does not allow them to sit on the fence. The neither agree, disagree. And so with that one, if ponder for just a second the following prompt. Today's learning environments, they are far different from the ones many educators or parents or business professionals encountered during their own 13+ years of schooling. And so please get up and you're taking a stance. What I want you to do is just go stand near one of the posters and then for a moment, talk to the individuals that are there and explain to them why you went there. Why? Yeah, what do you believe? Take a stance. Agree, disagree, about just that first quote.
Exactly. But what students have access to is slightly different.
Okay, and obviously,
Some of the ways people teach how to teach.
I'm getting a lot of agree and strongly disagree. So either on this side of the table or the other, go ahead and stay right where you are, so I don't mean to. This is strongly agree, and that's agree.
I don't want to be walking around.
Yeah, so turn and talk to up here, why did you put yourself there?
Why did you guys come over here?
Turn to someone.
Why did you choose agree versus strongly?
I know, I remember going to the library and
I think there's been lots of substitutions versus like modifications. So like, they don't write it before they type it. things like that, but like, not everything's been agreed upon, technology or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's, like, we think about
They're a loud group.
And then
10 seconds, finish up the comment that you're on.
Yeah, different, yeah, I agree.
Okay, everybody, turn off your damn cell phone.
Okay, 3, 2, and 1. That last word that you have. Great. So we're gonna come back together as a group now, and obviously, obviously on that first one, I am preaching to the choir. And everyone went to agree or strongly disagree. And we know that, and clearly, that's why you've been here for the last couple days. So now, after kind of the low-hanging fruit, let's go to the next one. Retaining fidelity in the curriculum is essential, yet all educators must be ready to adapt and enhance the curriculum to ensure student success.
So is that asking like, that if you disagree, you're saying that retaining fidelity is not important, or are you saying that?
Lean more towards the second half of that phrase. So you got the curriculum, and now it's our responsibility, every one of us, to be ready to adapt it and enhance it so that we're achieving student success. Where do you put yourself? Strongly disagree, sitting on there, disagree.
Asking, do you think the educators?
That's actually
yeah.
a great question that
I'm
Lisa
sorry?
had.
Is it the actual curriculum, or is it the way that we present the curriculum
I'm
and
gonna,
evaluate it?
I'm gonna say for purposes of today, particularly given the camp, it's the second part of that. How we do
present
it.
Not
How we-
necessarily the curriculum.
Yeah.
Curriculum's always evolved, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
because the curriculum has to be, you can't change it.
Talk to someone about why you're there, or talk to
We're the
someone
ones that
about
I guess.
a part of that prompt. That you might put yourself in strongly agree now with this part of the prompt, but you put yourself someplace else.
Well, it's
Good.
context.
Where you going?
The language
So, and your field.
Well, in your, that's what I was gonna say too. Yeah, and you might, and I guess I should ask you, if you're teaching it in yourself. That's my goal, and that everybody is
we have like
be successful.
Your
Best job of ensuring what I can.
Love that they're still managing to use it.
Then I would be strongly agree. But on the other hand, what do I have control over?
I guess the other option
And I can think of some situations where, because of what I don't have control over, I put myself in that. I can have.
I mean, and there's some, but then there can be parameters. So if you guys
When we talk about
we have lots of problems.
the different needs
And
and
so,
different abilities.
there's no reinforcement for certain students to they're not required to come. Yeah, so, and then if they're not going to change it, just instead of a PowerPoint slide, that it's going to be,
Well, I mean, they have variations.
So I don't think that we are putting.
3 seconds, let's just finish up the comment. Come on. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. As you can see from this sort of activity, we could go much, much longer. The power that we have as instructors to craft those prompts. It seemed pretty clear to me, but not until there were all these clarifying questions. Are you talking about the curriculum? Are you talking about the, and then the conversation that we just had too about ensuring student success, and how sometimes because of the parameters of that, honestly, I might put myself over here and disagree when we get into that. But again, thank you for engaging. Go ahead and have a seat and we'll continue.
Yeah, I know.
And I realize if we're gonna.
Yeah, you need his laptop off the table.
That would probably be mine.
No. It's like, all righty. Well, again, as you're wandering back to your seats, thanks for engaging, and I hope you can see the potential anyway for both kinds of activities to get it started, some sort of anticipatory set, the essence of differentiation in terms of building in a little bit of choice, the essence of differentiation in terms of, I referred to Medina the other day in the Brain Matters book that I just love, about how long learners can sit. And all of you have been in pretty much your assigned chairs now, for we're into day 3. So even though it's online, and they're pretty much sitting in a chair, how can you whip it up? How can you change it up? And so I hope you can see the potential for you just using aspects of these couple activities and figuring out how it will best fit your needs. So with that, a couple very quick objectives in our very short time together to talk about what I think is an incredibly important issue. But I want to just highlight a couple elements of the differentiated learning environment. Virtual, face-to-face. It's a big picture when I say environment. And articulate what differentiation looks like and will look like for you. What does it look like? What will it look like? And as you engaged in the very first activity over here, I saw lots of things up here about auditory and visual supports. Someone said, hey, I'm honest, I don't know much about, I'm unsure. Someone said, oh, I love that word, learning styles, but also access. It's access. And different abilities, technology. Someone asked me, so what is this stuff you're talking about? What do you mean by it? Again, access, learning styles, a variety of teaching methods, knowledge of different learning styles again, meeting students at different levels, styles again, materials, course scheduling, the environment, good. And hopefully in our very, very short amount of time together, some folks were saying, boy, I hope I walk out of here with some of the following. I want some practical online applications. Good, I want to give some to you. And let's collectively, Amy, as you move into next steps, work time, more of that. You know, this is so important. I love this message. Someone said, you know, what about my gifted learners? Absolutely. And boy, do we have them in our classes. Other things, meeting students' needs, some methods, considering different capabilities of students, how to come away with a standardized definition of this, how to implement it, ways to go about it, so good. So again, please let me once again offer the continued support 3 days is an awful lot, but it's not all of it. But the continued support from the instructional designers, you can see you online, and downstairs in the Center for Faculty Development, because it's wonderfully creative, fun stuff, and it's very challenging stuff about how do I. So let's continue to tackle that. And so with that one, we engaged in this activity and just reviewed a couple of the first cells, and we just encourage you in your teaching with online, remember to revisit it. What we have tried to do consciously, and you just saw one example where Amy kind of inserted and said, and Donna, that's why we did the intros. And, that great question that was brought up earlier about all that reading material. And we've got the estimator of how much time it will take. Remember things like from day one, all that reading material. What's good to know, maybe a recommended reading, but what are some readings that will help foster that enduring understanding about our class? So again, go back to that backward mapping. And so with that one, what I'd like to share with you for a couple minutes are the bigger picture of differentiation. I did put in, we'll get to it, I think it's my very last slide, and I know it's going to be really microcosmic on your handout, but I did put in for you a couple of my very, very favorite readings. And one of the individuals for whom much has been written, has an incredible website, is Carol Ann Tomlinson. And many people, I see a number of heads shaking, almost synonymous with that word differentiation. And so when people are thinking of what I would like to know, a real clear definition, I would ask you to visit Tomlinson's website. You don't even have to buy her books. She's got quite the website now. She's got a lot of teaching assistants because they continue to put stuff up there. And so when we talk about what is it and what is the environment, it's big and it's broad, and we are not, you did even a teeny bit of this I saw yesterday in a session I was in, for example, assessment. Elements of that differentiated learning environment. The environment is big. It is starting with stuff I covered the other day about those goals. Oh, those learning differences. There are so many great tools out there today. I gave you a link to just one, but looking at those learning profiles, and maybe as in kind of a flipped arrangement, a hybrid arrangement, a pre-activity, you might want to do something like that. A little pre-assessment about learning styles and have students, in addition to the fabulous things I saw on one of your handouts about presence, about providing those introductions to your students, you might want to consider something, a quick and dirty. I mean, you sure don't want to get into those ones that are so long with lots of different maps and my intersecting things. We were chatting earlier about a session I did a couple years ago on teaching Maymester that we've redone the last couple years. And we used to do a big section in that on Kolb, K-O-L-B styles. Great, and then some of his information is really kind of quick and dirty as well. So consider that. So other parts of the environment, the assessment, I'm going to mention that, I mentioned it a couple times already, but I would encourage you to just be thinking about and reading up on that brain compatibility learning and what the experts in the field have shown us. A really easy formula, if you don't have it in your back pocket at all times, is 10-2. Just 10-2. So that it's 10 minutes of this and 2 minutes of this. The 10-2. It's quick, it's dirty, but it really reflects the essence of a lot of brain research that says people can't sit there forever. Change it up, whip it up. do something different. Active learning, the importance of information that's come out about 21st century learning. How do I, especially online, look at flexible grouping, tiered assignments? This is hard stuff, tiered assignments. Interesting, challenging, choice-filled. Even this little activity right here, it had a little bit of choice in it. You got to go stand where you wanted. So some of these grounding principles, the 10-2, the choice, just have it be here at the front of your planning. And then, of course, we'll talk about too and get into learning. How do students own it, a little autonomy in that. And so with that, I'd like to cover the 3 guiding elements, and this has really become made famous, again, by Tomlinson. So Carol Ann Tomlinson, as I said, the guru in the field of differentiation, and again, lots of stuff on her website. But in terms of how do I have some parameters? How do I get started? Where do I go with it? You go in those 3 arenas right there. And so when I think about differentiation, and I think about some of the things I just covered, where is it in the content, the input, the what students are learning? Is there some elements of differentiation there? Is there some choice? Is there some autonomy? Maybe that comes out in the process or the product. The process, how students will go about making sense of those ideas. Are they reading about it? Are they seeing the video? Are they having time to talk to each other about it? What processes am I using? And then the product, that output. And I know you've talked about that a lot in these couple days, including an emphasis yesterday on Bloom and the triangle. And so again, take advantage of that assessment and that Bloom's information yesterday, because that's gonna really help guide you with that output. And this is not new. This is stuff that really complements exactly spot on with yesterday's. So let's talk about a couple examples here. And so on that next slide, here's our stepping stones. Here's our ladder. So different way of talking about backward design. So what is that content? And hopefully, when we say what is that content, we're really zoning in on those enduring understandings. There's my content. And gauge that background knowledge. And again, that's those learning styles. That's those little anticipatory sets. That's those surveys. I mean, it is amazing what people come to you knowing and not knowing. And so if you have some sense of that, and again, I understand, I teach here too, this is not like the world of, not that it isn't demanding, in K-12, where I have a classroom of 30, 35 learners, and I get the joy of seeing those little faces every single day for the whole year long. All day long. Pros and cons, but ours, oh my gosh, it might be a Maymester 4-week class. It might be 6 weeks, it might be 8, and it might be 15 or 16. It might be online, how do I get to know them, and so forth. But gauging background knowledge, how even in a 4-week online environment, have I made attempts to know their background knowledge? What could that look like? And again, these are all things I'd encourage you to ask for help with in those work sessions. We talked about this before, but okay, now I'm gonna get into the fun stuff of my methods and my materials and what I'm using. And how am I gonna assess it? And can I assess it in different ways? And so let's give a couple more, some specific ideas. an overwhelming graphic taken from Tomlinson's work that really looks at, here's my electronic pointer, taking you up there, which I ought to have to differentiate. And you ought to have it in, the other Amy was talking about those text boxes and some of that software to do that. Oh, what a wonderful way to differentiate. And if I'm standing up here, I should be standing up here with a pointer and a laser. So to differentiate, to help visual learners really focus. There are many learners that will take a look at that graphic and check right out.
Yep.
It is so much. It is color coded, and what the heck does the light green versus the dark green? And so again, all the great lessons you learned about universal design as well. But even thinking as if part of this is face-to-face and we are together, or you're doing it online with the video, having something that is, again, the pointer, the text box, the all of a sudden you can maximize only that one highlights, or you're bringing one in and then another part of the slide and another. So I think the information on this slide is really, really good. That's why I included it. But I also included it to illustrate kind of a slap in the face of differentiation, of how for so many learning styles and learners, that great information that's in those little boxes up there would be completely used to no avail. And so again, a nice flow chart. And for the couple folks that said, help me out, I want to leave with a more clear definition, or a clearer just understanding of the complexities of differentiation. I encourage you later with electronic access and opening it up so you can read it to get the flow of what the experts and the researchers in the field say, that really it is a teacher's response to learner need. That's the essence of differentiation. And experts in the field maintain that it is shaped by a mindset, and it's then guided by principles. But it's a mindset. I mean, again, I know I'm preaching to the choir. Trust me, I'm in some situations. One about a month or so ago, a workshop at a high school for the mathematics program. And a similar kind of conversation ensued. And I'll tell you, I had an awful lot of those faculty members that were standing over here that disagree. And they are saying to me really important messages like, you don't seem to get the district blueprint and the demands that I'm under to be on a certain page at a certain time in the textbook. I don't have. And so this stuff about differentiate and enable everyone, I've got to get on that page on that date. And I don't think that's, as an educator, that is my responsibility. I mean, there are credible demands. But the experts, again, feel that it's really that mindset. The guided principles, well, that's what I just referred to. Content, process, and product. Those are the guiding principles. And what does that mean, guiding principles? Well, it's respectful tasks. It is quality curriculum. I've done some backward mapping, backward design. It's just not stuff I think you ought to know. There are flexible groups. There is a continual assessment going on. And there is a community of what we're learning.
Hey, Donna, could you define flexible grouping?
Yes, and I can give a couple examples too. But again, and again, you have to excuse, you know, I come from the field of special education. And so I have to tell you, I can walk in most classrooms, and I walk in thousands every year, at least hundreds. And I can tell you where my people are. You know, and you might call my people the bluebirds, or they got names for it, but it's that group back there in the corner, and they never move. And the same thing for other ends of the spectrum. In lots of classrooms that I'm in K-12 scenarios, individuals with those important gifted needs are not in that classroom. They got pulled out, and they're down the hall in the TAG, the talented and gifted enrichment class. So very simply, flexible grouping means it takes into consideration things like abilities. Because I gotta tell you, I can teach most people how to read and write, even when people say they can't. I've had success. But I will also be honest and say, when you send me into middle schools and high schools, and I get to work with, it's a stereotype, but it is many boys, a group of boys that on test results are coming out at the first and second grade level, and they're juniors in high school. I don't know how to do it without taking them out, opening their mouth, and boy, I pour it in. And you'll learn it, you'll get it. But I don't know how to do that in a class with 35. So I think there is an absolute appropriate time for pull out. But, okay, I'm a little off task. I'm coming right back on the train. Watch, I'm coming back. And how do we do this kind of stuff? We do it by really paying attention to what's being taught, the content, the how, the process, and the what, the product. In that environment. My mindset, what messages have I given in that class? And how do I consider things? How do I go about it? Well, I get to know them a little bit. Like we talked about, little pre-survey, something about interests, something about learning. I don't just figure up what's going on in each of those different groups, but I do after looking at some of this information to drive those instructions. And lots of different strategies. So let me talk about a couple. And again, I'm watching the clock closely because I am not going into your lunchtime. So with that, I wanted to prepare here a listing, and we'll just jump right into it on that next slide of and you know, I think we went the other way.
Did I just, oh, I think we have
Or two of those got
Oh,
popped?
yeah, no, there we go.
Okay,
That was my
thank you.
fault.
No, no
Sorry.
problem at all.
click the wrong one.
No. Knowing that we only had a very little bit of time together here, I could spend easily, you could see, a half a day just on flexible grouping or process. But what I wanted to do is just shoot out some highlights here in our precious moments. And so what I put together here is kind of what I call the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff. I don't mean to say that in a dismissive way, but I put in these categories of what I call low prep differentiation. Because as I said, some stuff, it just takes a lot of work. It's challenging. I want to be honest about that. But some of the low prep are things like a choice in some, now I've got really good readings. They are peer-reviewed, they are evidence-based, or texts, or blogs, or websites, and materials, but to provide that first word choice. So I'm using lots of different ways to let the students choose. And so someone said earlier, boy, that's an awful lot of readings. Are they all required readings? Well, I think we can sort through that and see, do they need to all be required? Will they all contribute to enduring understanding? Well, and I think we can think about things beyond the textbook and beyond the peer-reviewed article. I don't give up on those at all. But are there blogs that you as the expert have looked at and say, gosh, it is current, it is high quality, I want that to be one of the readings. And so again, can there be choice with some of this? And I'm not saying, I'm not saying there's choice in everything in the world. As any of you in here are parents, do your kids have choice in everything? No, they do not. There are certain things that are non-negotiable. All right, so that's an idea. Oh, the power, the potential value of graphic organizers are incredible. And so again, we chatted earlier about someone in your home who's very much a visual learner. Many of us are. Most overwhelmingly, people will want to hear it, but you'll also get students who will say, well, just show me. I need to see that big picture. And like we were chatting the other day, that so often we as instructors, parents, tend to, and first I need you to do this, and then, and then, and then, and then. It's a lot of verbal stuff coming out of your mouth. And so whenever you can think about maximizing a visual description, show the model, use those little talking boxes, text boxes, where you are actually pointing to the important information. Use that.
Don, I'm curious, that made me think about when we were talking about audio learners, and I'm a kinesthetic learner. And so, has there been any studies done in online education where people are touching, even if it's the keyboard, to type more, that helps kinesthetic learners?
Absolutely, and I haven't seen anything that is uniquely done with the online learning, but I have seen lots of information about building that in and how that does contribute to it. The same thing with even like taking the notes. Remember the other day, we gave that example from, I said the wrong university, but the note taking. Yeah, but the other one, I'm astounded at how much is online today on graphic organizers. Just type those words into Google. You will get a ton of pre-made templates. And so again, a lot of learners will very definitely benefit from that. If it is just that advanced, and it's called different things in the literature, advanced organizer, graphic organizer, webs. I mean, there's lots of words for that, but advanced organizer is going to get you more than you'll ever need. And so just be thinking, do I use this with every class? Could I use today's advanced organizer as my anticipatory set? Sure. Remember the other day, and I'm going to do it again today, I pressured you to think about your closure, your summary. Don't just end. Help them summarize, help them wrap it up. And so again, I've seen lots of graphic organizers. Maybe I use it as my anticipatory set, what we're doing today, and then what you do with it at the end, a summary. Go back, kind of like this one. We're not going to have time to get into this today, but here's just an example of it, what I did learn. There's a graphic organizer, and it would be a great closure activity. Couple other things here. Oh, the value of pre and post questioning, grounding, extension activities, suggestions of this. So again, that students could even choose how to extend my learning from this class.
I actually would like to know what a grounding activity, what you mean by that.
Okay, there's also, some of the literature calls it sponges. I don't know if you've heard that, a sponge activity. So it certainly could be, it's that grounding activity that is very much like an anticipatory set. And so someone name a topic for me. Any topic.
Nursing.
Okay, a nursing activity. And today's focus and session is on what topic?
Starting IVs.
Oh, it's starting an IV, and I know so much about starting an IV. But again, a grounding activity, maybe it is that anticipatory set. about what do I already know about starting an IV? What are the potential problems of me doing it wrong? So it's grounding them.
So foundational information?
It is foundational, it is background, it's actually, I've seen instructors sometimes do little, as I use the phrase, the literature uses sponge activities, where students might engage in maybe 2 different other activities that are going on in class, and a group is going over there near Daryl and we're using his laptop and we flip on a short 3-minute video about something about those doing the IV, whereas a couple others are going over here to this activity and we're talking about maybe a list of all the vocabulary words that are associated with an IV. I don't know what they are, but so you see those are very different. They're not really where I'm spending all today's lesson on, but they are grounding activities.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Thanks for asking. Pay attention, pay close attention to your varied verbal and written prompts. I actually have a little flip chart that is right there. I could take it down to my office. It's in the top drawer on the left-hand side, and it's my version. It's a flip chart of Bloom's. And I don't do new lessons without it. Because I know that we all get into our own patterns of teaching. The same kinds of questions come out of my mouth, the same use of certain of those verbs, and I need Bloom's taxonomy to help me, and you've got lots that I heard was on your
There's a lot of stuff in
Google.
there.
I like the little flip chart just because I'm used to it, but I make myself look at it, and I actually, as a practice, I make sure every single lecture I scribe a different question, because I don't trust myself to automatically and innately cover those different levels of understanding. And so please pay attention to that. Post those videos and your lectures. Make everything accessible. And again, this goes back to this one, strategic levels of questioning. I said the other day, and I will just reiterate it again, please commit in the class you're teaching this summer or the one you're going to teach in the fall, audio tape yourself once, at least. You know, just turn that function on your iPhones and just audio tape it. You don't have to get a tape recorder. Play that tape back and ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, do I sound like the professional I always dreamed I would be? Am I boring? Do I ramble? That's question number 1. Question number 2, I would so encourage you, and this is a great professional development opportunity for colleagues in your programs, for individuals that are working with 44 facilitators of, The second question I ask you is, what levels of questioning am I using? And just code it with Bloom's taxonomy. Are they all what questions? Please tell me. Are they remembering? And so forth. And you know this already. You gave me examples on our first day together, but the different activities with different complexity levels. And again, is it choice? Is it attention to second language learners? And I'm not saying it's not a complex activity, but have I varied my visual and verbal prompts in a highly, highly complex activity? So I'm not assuming just because someone is a second language learner, they need only basic remembering kind of skills. No way. So these are the low hangers. More time, more energy, coupled with a higher level. Tiered activities and products. So tiered is really what Amy was getting at before, but with your question. But there's different the research has come up with the different categories of tier. How do we tier? Well, are we tiering by challenge level? How demanding this is? Is it complexity? Is it the number of resources I have for the folks to either access or currently use? Is it the outcomes, the great information Margaret covered the other day? It could be varied by outcome. Processes or products that support learner preferences. So I've done those little surveys before, quick and dirty, and oh my gosh, for some reason I've got 4 out of the 15 learners in this graduate class somehow also have this incredible hobby of collecting rocks, studying formation. We live in Colorado. I've got, oh my gosh, I have 4 marathon runners in this class. What can I do about that? How could I take advantage of those learning styles and those preferences? Ongoing and interactive assessments, and I know you've talked about that already, but please, as you're planning, think about you're tapping it formatively. This is not all about a summative thing at the end. Strategic use of collaboration and or independence. So we talked a little bit about, and we can get you much more information if you need it, but even on Monday, we talked about how do you do collaborative work online, and where is it collaborative and where is it highly independent, and how do I judge that? The maximizing current technologies, and kudos to all of you for being here. I came in a little early this morning before my session and wrote down the name of 2 new cool things that I've never used before. And so again, the minute I was to write something down, there'd be 6 other examples. But that commitment that obviously you all have, or you wouldn't be here today, but keep that commitment. The technologies, the stations. And again, that's a little bit like what I was talking about with nursing and the IVs. You know, do I have something over there or something that I listen to? If I know that I've got a bunch of kinesthetic learners, another station is the examples of all of that. But I've got a lot of visual learners, and so I'm capitalizing. You want all your learners to use the correct terminology. So I call them graduated rubrics, but I know that Alex spent time with you yesterday on rubrics. And so think about graduated rubrics too, because it's not just the end bar, but are there formative things that I should be doing along the way? That gives a lot more clarity and differentiates things, that I'm not just going here. And you may very well see mid-course corrections needed. Yeah.
So do you mean when you ask for drafts and then you provide feedback and then you're kind of working on
It's exactly.
Okay.
Scaffolded learning. Yep. And you know, let's be honest, there'll be some learners.
Yeah, I just wanted more clarity on what it is, a graduated rubric.
It really is, you know, I was starting to say, there's some learners, you can give it to them, give them one thing, what's expected in 15 weeks, and they're right there. And they can put those pieces together. They can put together the timelines. You don't really need to say, by the end of week 3, I need this and this and this. Graduated rubrics would be that. It would be breaking down those pieces a little bit more. And again, some learners are going to need that. Other learners are not. Tell me once and I got it. Others, I'm going to need to see it. And finally, interactive technology rich in what I call choice menus. And again, this takes time and energy, but again, having some choice, I call it a menu, but a menu is I get to go in the restaurant and choose what I want for dinner. And so are there things that you can put together that would be interactive? It has some technology richness in it, but there's a choice menu. So I can do it, and an example of that really does go back to here about even your readings. Can a reading be a choice of 3 different websites? Now, my graduated rubrics are gonna talk to you about what you really need to look for, but it's different websites and it's different blogs. And it could very well be some different, maybe we all have the same textbook, but we have some different peer-reviewed articles. Further questions, and I'm sorry, I'm running over
You're
some.
fine, it's
Okay. So let me hit these next couple points. That again, it's recursive, and we know that. But plan for it now, because boy, it does take the planning and the assessment, and we gotta go find stuff, we gotta revise, and we keep doing that. It is a version of a diagnostic teaching model. And so again, as closure and next steps, one example of a closure activity would be for me to pass out more sticky notes and to have you articulate what you learned from our little 45-hour together. Another example, differentiated closure activities. And most people do have a smartphone or access to an electronic device. And how about using differentiated things such as have your students tweet? That, as you know from somebody that does a lot of that these days, that it's out there and you're locked into those 20 words, those 140 characters. I love tweets because tweets force synthesis. I can't ramble. And so again, have your students at the end of today, instead of the sticky notes, tweet out something about how you're gonna deepen your differentiation skills.
Do you literally have them set up a Twitter account with your class? Or you just have them type it in here and keep it to 40 characters?
Yeah.
Can you do closed groups on Twitter?
I'm pretty sure you can.
100% sure.
Not either.
There is something,
Or you just give each other, everybody in the class, their Twitter handle, and that way people can connect.
I'm pointing to communications right now, because I was actually in a class by Amy. Yes, thank you. And she did something like that at the end of the class, so,
Was it poll everywhere? It could have been where that's different,
Okay.
it's texting, but you can have a class and you can do it through poll everywhere, and that would
Okay.
definitely close to just the texting
okay,
instructor in the group.
And just
It may
for
have
the
been
instructor.
something like that.
yeah, maybe we can talk
Yeah.
about,
It brings up a big point that actually we've been starting an initiative to get some resources around social media for faculty to answer these kind of questions for you in a centralized place, because we've realized that, oh, Twitter's such a great thing, but what about that student that really doesn't want to be public and,
Yes.
a whole other,
So
yeah.
do a closed.
Not with Twitter, but you could do a closed 140 character
and maybe
message in
that's
something
what
that's
Amy
closed.
did in her class, but
Yeah,
Poll everywhere.
or Slack, that's a great point too, the messaging.
did Margaret use one?
She used a poll everywhere
Yeah.
the other day,
Oh.
so we could
Yeah.
text to her, so it could be
It could
20
be
words
there.
max, and everyone gets to see it on the screen, your closure. Or your last 20 words for the class, and everyone can see it projected,
Okay.
and it's anonymous, so hold on, I'm saying.
Yeah, great. Well, a version like that, again, I think is a great way to differentiate. You're differentiating the prompt, the what you're asking. And another version would be just what I gave you in your packet. And it's a paper and pencil one. And it is my next steps. What are the steps you will take to deepen your skills in differentiated instruction? So as an instructor, I would hope that that there's at least a thing after our little bit of time together. Content, process, product, learning styles, pre-surveys, the differentiating the questions you ask, really looking at the levels. So I would really ask you to walk away today, this afternoon, with an idea, at least one. And you're not tweeting it to me, and we're not polling. Here's a paper and pencil one. And so with that, I think I had one other one. And this I mentioned to you, it's just a couple of my favorites. And this is her most current book, so that's Carol Ann Tomlinson. And it's a nice synthesis. Boy, she's written so much, but it just is pulled together in that one. And then, of course, I love, when we talk about universal design, I don't think you can do that kind of work without the expertise of CAST. Of that center. So here's a couple of links and references for you. This is it's kind of a quick and dirty one. When I said before to maybe do a little pre-survey about learner interests and characteristics, here's one. There's tons out there. So look for one that's easily accessible for you, and a couple helpful Heloise hints on those references. And so with that, any other questions? I'm going to stick around for a little bit, so grab me. Do they have activities to do over lunch?
No, we just have, we've got, I was gonna do 30, is that good for lunch? Do we want 45? What feels, 30 minutes? We come back at a quarter of 1?
Yeah.
So taco bar's here, help yourselves. We'll
Great.
reconvene at a quarter of 1. I'll get these slides and the stuff from the morning up in that drive so that you have it, and yeah.
And thank you again,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Sure
Oh my
thing.